Well, this is the WL Toys 911S micro helicopter. Great little helicopter. Comes with a transmitter and a few little spare parts here. My full unboxing video is on my channel and I'll link it at the end of this video. I'm not the expert on micro helicopters. Particularly, this is my first venture into what I call proper helicopters that have actually got a swashplate. And although I've flown quite a few quadcopters, big, small, and helicopters with contra-rotating props, as a beginner flying helicopters, I found it quite lively to control. So, did a bit of research, and here are a couple of little mods that you can make. You need a steady hand, some needle nose pliers, the screwdriver that comes with the kit, and some Pritt stick or Vaseline or grease or something. And you'll see why in a minute. First thing you've got to do is remove this little cover. Dead easy, pops off. And that exposes the control board and gives you easier access to the servos and these little control arms, which is the first mod. Do this at your own risk. It's quite a delicate procedure, but it makes the helicopter much more smooth and gentle and controllable. So let's take a closer look. Right, well, first off, I don't recommend you do this with the board live, but I'm doing it so that I can show you what happens here with the controls. Now you've got two servos, one here and one just there. So if you move the right hand stick up and down, you can see that front servo moves, which acts as elevator, and if you move it side to side, that servo moves, which acts as ailerons. First mod, and you need a steady hand to do this, and the needle nose pliers, is undo the little tiny screw there, gently take this off. Now you may notice that I've got this control arm here on the inner hole on the servo. It was originally on the outer hole. Now moving it to the, oh, I've caught the magnet, and now moving it from the outer to the inner hole decreases the movement there, which has actually made it much smoother and easier to control that way. And likewise, moving this control arm from there to there decreases movement on that one. Now the reason I mentioned the Pritt stick was to put the screws back in is quite tricky, but if you actually put a bit of glue or resin or something on the end of the screwdriver, you can pop the screw on and just slip it into the hole. It is quite a delicate procedure. Well, I mentioned Pritt stick to try and get these little screws back in. You need a blob on the end, and my hands are shaky because I just lost this tiny little screw. Now as you can see, with a bit of Pritt stick you can put that on the end and then very carefully put the screw back in like so, because you'd never do it without. But as I say, better to do it with the board not alive. In fact, I shouldn't have even tried that. But get that in. Now you may have noticed in the early part of that video that this control arm was actually coming down that side, around and in that way. Well, I've just taken it off to put it through that way, because it's now got a much better north-south angle to the control rod. I was beginning to wish that I hadn't, because I got hold of the screw with some pliers and it just flew across the room, and I really thought it was gone. But Pritt stick on the end will help you get it in there. I just wanted to add that after making that last modification where I moved the control arm to the other side of the servo arm, whereas previously this little chopper, I had it trimmed and hovering absolutely perfectly. It was totally screwed up again, and maybe because I put the servo arm in a slightly different position, but virtually no amount of trimming would stop it from drifting hard to the left. I've managed to fix it now, but it just goes to show this is quite a tricky and possibly dangerous procedure to mess around with, unless you're prepared to mess around and sort it out. Just a warning. The second procedure is even more difficult. If you look right in here, if I can get in closer, let's see. If you look in here at the swash plate, this upper part has two different sets of ball joints to connect to the blades at the top on these control arms. Well, when you first get it, it's actually on the slightly longer one here. What I've done is I popped these off, popped the control arm off this little ball joint, and moved it from that ball joint to this one, which is slightly shorter. Now that has decreased the range of movement and made it smoother and easier to fly. It is quite a delicate operation. You need needle nose pliers and the edge of a blade to get hold of the control arm and very gently pop the ball joint off, and likewise very gently, once you've turned it through 90 degrees, put it back on. If you don't feel happy or confident doing it, please don't try it, because it would be very easy to damage the ball or the control arm, and then basically you've stuffed your helicopter. So that took care of the range of movement and made it smoother. Now I'll come on to trimming. Now I don't think they explain trimming very well in the manual. They mention debugging. Well, I didn't even know what that was. But on the transmitter, if you press and hold the right hand button for 3 seconds, like so, that's what I'm doing, you get a triple beep. The little light's flashing on the board here, and likewise it's flashing on the transmitter. So what you do is you fly it, move the 2 trim buttons to compensate for any right or left drift or forward and backward drift. That's these trim buttons here. Beep, 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 beep. If you do it in that mode, land and then press this button for 3 seconds once you land. Flashing light's gone off, and now it will retain those new trim settings. Here's another little tip. I went online to see if I could get some spare batteries for this, because, well, they say 6 or 7 minutes, but when you're trying to practice, that goes very quickly, and to then wait for a recharge takes some time. So found some more batteries. Anyway, these look to be about the same size. They're overlanders. These are single cell lipos, in other words 1S, 250 milliamps, 25C. These are actually only 240 milliamps, but I think actually gave me longer flight time. From Overlander, I'll put a link down in the comments below, but I bought 3 of these. They're a bit tight, but if you just snip this carrier, they will slide in out okay. So I hope that's helpful as well. Certainly appear to give a longer flight time than the WL Toys battery, but all the same they weren't all that expensive, about £4 or £5 each I think. And the other thing I've done is put a little cable tie around the skid leg to give some support to the power lead where it connects to the circuit board, because I'd noticed that the tension on it was actually compressing the little foam pads that they put this circuit board on. Quite a simple thing to do, but stop damage before it happens. So I'll just show you now how this will actually do a nice hover and is much more controllable. But I just emphasize again, don't start messing around with this unless you are confident that you're good at this kind of fine work to shift stuff around. And again, don't do it with the board live. Right, well that's it for now. Enjoy your flying. Thanks for watching. Plenty of videos if you get bored on my channel. Paragliding, paramotoring, sailing, quadcopters, you name it, it's all there. And thanks to the guys on RC Group's forum for the advice about changing to the inner Swashplate ball joint. That was very helpful. In fact, very helpful group. I shall link that below as well. Okay, catch you later.